Okay, I think we are live right now, and I should be sharing my screen, although I'm not sure how I see any questions that come up on YouTube, right? Because YouTube's over here. So anybody that might be able to help me. Um, yeah, ideally I wanted to be able to share my screen, which puts me over in this application, but it may have to be a web application. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see any questions you guys may have that pop up. Um, so this is a trial. We're trying this thing out. I'm going to see if maybe I could just run through a couple things that I saw you guys had some questions on. This should be sharing my whole screen. I hope this is working. It looked like it was working a lot like Screencastify. At any rate, um, you guys were supposed to be working on 8.4 while we were in class. And I think one of the bigger questions people had was probably number 9 and number 11. So I'm going to go through that really quick. For those of you that were absent or had trouble um, doing these, it might be worth it for us to go through these. So most of you are pretty good at setting up the equation for number 9. We had these separate parts. 7 of this chord, 7 times x, has to be equal to x plus 1 times 2x. The only thing that to be careful there, guys, and this is going to come up many times in your math career here in high school, college, etc., is when people are multiplying two terms together, they often forget to put that term in parentheses and realize that you have to distribute. So after you distribute, you get 7x on one side, 2x squared plus 2x on the other. And this is a quadratic equation that actually has a middle term here, right? We have something of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And we usually set that equal to 0. And we can solve it in many ways. We could solve it by factoring if the numbers are nice. If the numbers are not nice, but you could still solve it in some other ways, you could complete the square. If all else fails, you can use quadratic formula. Okay. A lot of the problems you do in high school math, you're going to be able to factor, or you got to use quadratic formula. Completing the square is sometimes helpful, but um, these are the two methods we usually use. At any rate, this means that we should get all this thing equal to 0, right? We should get all this equal to 0. But to do that, we're going to have to subtract 7x on both sides. And we get 0 on the left, and we get 2x squared minus 5x on the right. Now, this somewhat looks like a quadratic, right? Ugh, this somewhat looks like a quadratic, but we've got an x squared term. Basically, we have an x squared term and an x term, but we don't have a constant. So this actually becomes a little bit easier. It doesn't factor into our typical two sets of parentheses type of thing. What we want to do is just look and see if there's any way we can factor that. And indeed, there's an x we can take out, and you get 2x minus 5 inside. Now, from there, a lot of you get confused, but it's the same idea. It's a zero product theorem that says anytime you anytime you multiply two numbers together and get 0, right? Then one of those has to be 0. Either this has to be equal to 0 or this has to be equal to 0. The same thing applies here. Even though this is not in parentheses, it's like its own term. So either x has to be 0 or 2x minus 5 has to be 0. And from there, we can solve the one on the right. It becomes 2x equals 5, x equals 5 halves, or 2.5 for those of you that don't like fractions, but you should get used to either one of them. Now, x equals 0 as a solution doesn't really make sense in our problem because we couldn't have a length of 0 of a part of a chord here. So my answer is going to depend on x being equal to 2.5. But we want to find AD, which is right here, which is x plus 1. So that's going to be 3.5 added to 2x, which is going to be 2 times 2.5, which is 5. So my answer is 8.5. And there were no units here, so we'll just keep it as 8.5 units. Okay. Let's just go back to my YouTube and see if we got any questions or anything. I'm not sure what's going on over here. We're making infinitesimally small screens in there. I got to figure out how to work that out. But right now, we're going to continue through. See, I was learning how to live stream over here. We're going to continue on through number 11. Okay. And then I'll stop the video and see if I have any way to see if anybody's commenting. Okay, number 11, we are given AB is 10x minus 12. Okay, AB is 10x minus 12. That's that whole chord. And we're given part of the chord, EB is 3x plus 6, right? And we can see that we have a line perpendicular through the center. So that line that's perpendicular through the center of the circle bisects the chord. So EB is 3x plus 6, and AE is also 3x plus 6 because that chord is bisected. So basically 3x plus 6 times 2 would be equal to the whole chord, which is 10x minus 12. We do some distribution here. 2x plus 6x plus 12 equals 10x minus 12. Let's add 12 to both sides and we get 24 on the left. Subtract 6x on both sides, we get 4x on the right. And divide by 4 and we get x equals 6. Now that doesn't tell me the answer to my problem, right? That only tells me what x is according to what I labeled x. And that was what was labeled x in the problem. We want to find the length of OE, which is right here, right? But we're given that the diameter CD is 50. So that means any radius that I want will be 25, right? And I'm going to draw a very smart radius to draw in here. We have smartphones. This is a smart radius, right? Because this is a part that's going to help me find the missing part of my triangle, right? So look at my green, blue, and red sides. I know the green side, the red side is a radius, so it's 25 based on this. I just found EB. Well, I found X. If I plug that in, I can find EB. EB is 6 times 3 plus 6, which is 4 times 6, which is 24. It's 24 right there. And this is a right triangle where I've got a side of 25. I got a side of 24. The 25 is the hypotenuse. This is my famous 7, 24, 25 right triangle. You can go ahead and do Pythagorean theorem if you want. X squared plus 24 squared equals 25 squared. And when you work all that out, you're going to get x equals 7. I guarantee it. Okay, that's a brief overview of number 9 and 11. Maybe we have other questions over these, but I can't see. So I'm going to stop this YouTube live stream, and I'm going to go and see if there's some way for me to see my comments as I'm working on a non-web application. I'm not sure if it's possible, but let's try it.